Today we're going to make pesto, but more importantly, we're going to learn some unique twists that we can add, and I've got a story to share with you if the letters GMO concern you. All right, I'm Annette Reeder, the Biblical Nutritionist, and I'm on mission to help you be confident in your health, therefore confident in your future, and most importantly, understand that God loves you. All right, I'm so excited about what I got to share with you today. So let's just start with how to make pesto. The basic ingredients are really just the basic ingredients. So we've got our basil leaves, we've got our oil, we've got a cheese, and we've got nuts. That's basic. Oh, and garlic. Never forget the garlic. Okay, so let's just think about this. The basil. Okay, here's where I got to tell you this story. So basil, okay, let's just start with the nutritional benefits. You know, it's really high in magnesium. Magnesium is important because it helps your muscles to work smoothly and not complain. Do you ever have restless leg at night or have heart issues? Well, those are muscles that are complaining. So you need to add some basil. It does have some vitamin K, so you need to be careful though if you're on a blood thinner. God's given us natural vitamin K that if you just eat basil every day, you can adjust your medicine and still get the goodness that God's given you. But that's not the best part. The best part is there are essential oils inside the leaves of the basil plant. These essential oils are incredibly good antibacterial oils. They are really good for staphylococcus, pseudomonas, E. coli, and guess what? The first two that I mentioned are actually becoming drug therapy resistant. They aren't responding anymore to the antibiotics that man has been coming up with. But yet God put the antibiotic in the basil plant. Isn't that just like our God? And when God gives us an antibiotic in his plants with these essential oils that are in this leaf, it doesn't kill the good guys. It only kills the bad guys. That's how God's plants work. So let me just encourage you, if you are elderly, you need to be eating some freshly made pesto. If you can add basil leaves to your salads, to your scrambled eggs, there's no limit to what you can do with basil leaves. So that's the basic ingredient for our pesto. If you don't have basil, you can actually use cilantro. Cilantro is extremely powerful in helping your liver to cleanse as well. That means it helps get rid of heavy metals like arsenic and lead, things like that, that you may think, Annette, I don't have that. I'm like, yes, you do. And you need some cilantro in your diet. Okay, so let's get back to the basics. The basics are basil leaves. So I have mine all clean, washed, and I have some of them are already chopped up. And well, it's at my house, so I'm just going to go ahead and scrape that out. I forgot to get me a scraper ready. Let me just reach for that. Okay, so we've got our basil leaves. Now, basil is delicious. It's great to add to everything, but it also makes a beautiful bouquet. So you don't have to have just flowers on your table. You could have basil on your table as well. These are just straight out of my garden this morning. I wanted to bring them in for you to see and just to enjoy. Okay, so I got my 2 leaves. I'm going to add in 3 garlic bulbs. I know if you're counting, that looked like 2, but I already have 1 that I've already chopped up. Now before I add anything else, I'm going to go ahead and just chop this up to get that garlic minced. That'll give that a start. Now, the next ingredient is another just basic ingredient. It's going to be our oil. When you have a liquid ingredient, you always measure in a liquid measuring cup. So this here would be a dry measuring cup. It has a flat top. This is a liquid measuring cup because you want to be able to see, look eye on to make sure your measurement is correct. Now I'm using olive oil because it's just one of my favorites, but you could use avocado oil. You could use other oils. Whatever is your favorite, oil is just an ingredient. Then we're going to use some cheese. Your regular recipes are going to call for Parmesan cheese, but it's just cheese. You could use some feta cheese. You could use goat cheese. Those, you really want the drier texture cheeses, so like mozzarella is not going to work as well, and Some of you other like cheddar, that would just taste weird. Okay, our next ingredient is nuts. So I'm going to use pine nuts because it's the typical ingredient. But I want you to understand, pine nuts are expensive. So if you're like, I can't make pesto, it costs too much. Well, then get some walnuts or some pecans and use them in your pesto instead. So I'm going to add these in. So don't limit yourself just because one ingredient is too expensive. There are so many options that we can add to our food. So let's just blend this up. I'm just going to pause and just scrape down the sides. Now I told you I got the pesto out of my garden this morning. I'm going to share with you one of my favorite tools for working with my own herbs, and that's these herb shears. I don't know how well you can tell it on video, but there's actually, it makes 3 cuts at the same time, and it's just like snip, 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 and you have chopped up your herbs so fast. Now because I'm using the immersion blender, I really didn't even have to chop up the herbs because it's going to do it for me. Okay, let's think about this. Okay, that looks yummy. I'm also going to add, this is where we get to start having fun. I could go ahead and add just a little bit of feta cheese to just, you know, make a little bit of a salty flavor. And actually I didn't even throw salt in here because you usually don't need it. Most recipes will say maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is basically nothing. Now I'm going to throw in 1 roasted pepper. This is actually from my garden a couple years ago that I had canned. I just opened it up for this recipe. So we're going to add that to our recipe. I can't wait to try this. I bet you can't either. Okay, but before we go any further, I've got to share with you something. Okay, I told you about pesto. I told you about basil. Now basil, I told you the health benefits of it. That's enough to just make you want to run out to the store and buy a plant and then plant it. But here's something else you need to understand. A study that just came out is that basil was being noticed to have an epidemic, and it was being just coated with a fungus and with some mildew, and it was really destroying the value of the basil. Well, here's the good part. In Israel, basil is a big product. It's a huge market. In fact, Israel ships over $80 million worth of herbs worldwide every year. Yeah, Israel, the tiny country that everyone is angry with, it ships over $80 million worth of fresh herbs every year to Europe and even to Eastern United States. But this mildew, it was an epidemic that was not only being discovered in Israel, it's being discovered all around the world on the basil plant. This is the sweet basil. Well, Israel, in their labs, they were able to start cross over with some wild basil. Now realize you can't just spray in Israel. You can't spray chemicals on the food. It's not allowed. And you can't, here's a good one, you can't even have a GMO crossover. So, okay, so no getting into the genetics and messing with that because that's just the law of Israel. So when you go to Israel, you can eat anything you want, and you don't have to worry about GMOs. Isn't that just amazing? I just love it. And okay, here's another plug. If you haven't been to Israel, I just got to say, why not? What are you waiting for? Be sure and check our website for our next trip, or go with your own church. It's an amazing trip. Okay, so Israel discovered how to cross a wild basil with the sweet basil to make it resistant naturally to the mildew. Isn't that amazing? So many things can be done naturally that, you know, man usually just reaches for a chemical or just tries to go into the non-GMO. That way they can kind of trademark it. And yet the Israeli universities were able to do it without either of those. So that means we still get the benefit, the health benefit, the flavor, all of that. So it's an amazing study. I will link to that study down below so you can read it for yourself. And while you're at it, give this a thumbs up. Telling me how much you like it, and I want to hear your comments. What do you think about GMOs? Some people are for them, some people are against them. What's your favorite way to use basil? Okay, now don't leave because I got to share with you what I'm going to do with this. Because I've got another surprise for you. Okay, I found this handy tool. It's called the Miracle Peeler. I will put a link to it down below. You're going to want this. And so everybody's familiar with spiralizing, right? But usually you have to buy a big gadget or a machine, and I've even done videos on spiralizing. I'll put a link to those below too. This is zucchini, and actually this miracle peeler, one side it does strips and the other side it spiralizes, and it's the same size as your peeler. So you would just take your zucchini, and on the side that's my spiralizer, I would just go like this, and it looks like all I did was shred it, slice it, but I actually have spiral noodles. Is that cool or what? Is that cool? That is just amazing. So I have all these spiralized zucchini noodles. So I have a bowl here that I lightly steamed. They are all ready to go, except they need some pesto on them. So I've got some zucchini, some spiralized zucchini. I'm going to put just a little bit of pesto on there, mix that up. And I am going to have the perfect dish for my grandkids, my husband. I'm not sure if he likes it or not, but we'll see. And voila, I have some pesto on top of my spiralized zucchini with my incredible tool. Did you like this or not? Did I give you a lot of incredible information? Because I enjoy this. So I'm Annette Reeder, the Biblical Nutritionist. I love being on mission to help you be confident in the kitchen and just to understand that you can thrive. Your health can be amazing. So be sure and like this video. Be sure and share it with your friends, because when you share it, you may think, oh, I don't really have time for that. But when you share it, it shows to Google that this is valuable, and then they will help share it as well. But it starts with you. So be sure and share this. Go to our website, thebiblicalnutritionist.com, and look at all the blogs and the recipes, and you may have to camp out there a while, do some binge reading on thebiblicalnutritionist.com. I look forward to seeing you next time, and hey, don't forget, leave a comment down below how you use basil. It is finally here, my latest book, and this is such a treasure. I am so excited about this book, 7 Foods of the Promised Land. Why these 7 foods? Does it really matter? Why didn't he choose broccoli? You know how I teach about that. But no, these 7 foods are so specific. God had a purpose for each one of these foods to be a lesson for us to learn from. The way he shares his love through these 7 foods is incredible. Not only how nutritious they are for us, but how delicious they are for us and how spiritually encouraging they are for us. I can't wait for you to get your hands on my new book, 7 Foods of the Promised Land. Be sure and check out any of your retailers. It's available everywhere, even on my website. And while you check it out and read this book and enjoy it, be sure and leave a review on Amazon or our website. I'm going to be doing some fun giveaways for people who leave a review. Thanks for watching, and I really want you to check out 7 Foods of the Promised Land.